Do you wanna tee us
Yeah,
off?
thanks, Bodo. And I just want to welcome everyone this morning. I saw the list of all those attending, and hopefully you all find this to be beneficial and appreciate you taking time out of your schedules to tune in to this broadcast on how one of our local facilities here, Forest Glen Golf and Country Club, is creating superior golf experiences in a busy season. I'd like to thank Tagmarshal. They've been a partner of the section for over 5 years now, and Ed Weber, our PGA professional at Forest Glen, for your insight today and talking about the technology that you have to offer today is purely educational opportunity. So hopefully you all learn a lot and can find some things that could benefit you at your facilities as you head into the summer months, have some time to digest and plan for the busy season that'll start in the fall of 22. But thank you, Bodo. Thank you, Ed, for saying yes. And I hope everybody enjoys this seminar today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Meredith. And yeah, also thanks for your fantastic partnership. We love working with you and the team. Ed, it's over to us now. So what I would like to do is welcome you from my side and also thank you. We've been working with Forest Glen also for a number of years, possibly even longer than we've been partnered with the Florida section. You are reasonably new to the club. So what I would like to do is welcome you and then also give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and the club, of course.
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity today. Again, I'm Ed Weber. I've been at Forest Glen now almost two years, 2 seasons anyhow. Long-time Southwest Florida in the area. Started at Pelican's Nest back in the day as a head golf professional back in the 90s. And moved on from Pelican's Nest to Pelican Sound, opened up that club in 1997. After a few years, I moved over to Raptor Bay, a resort golf course associated with Hyatt Regency. That was in 2001 and was there for 13 years. Went to the Colony Golf and Country Club for a few years, doing some renovation work over there and helping with that. And then decided to chase the son and grandkids up to Orlando and ended up at Disney as their director of golf operations at Disney. And spent a couple years up there, but soon found out as much as we love being with the grandkids, there's nothing like being in Southwest Florida, since that had been our roots for almost 30 years. So made the move back and was happy to join the team here at Forest Glen. Like I said, it'll be 2 years in September. So I've had 2 seasons under my belt here at Forest Glen. Forest Glen is a bundled golf course community. It's got 799 doors, which means everybody is a member that is an owner here. The 799 is best we can say kind of translates into about 13 to 1,400 members. Just not everybody plays and not every spouse plays, but we do have quite a few members, 18-hole golf course. We do operate it as semi-private in the off season where we take some outside play. But it's basically bundled through 7-8 months out of the year. Art Hills redesigned the golf course in 2007. We have a planned renovation in 2024. Hired architect Ron Forrest to come in and touch up some areas. And currently, Forest Glen is an all paspalum grass golf course from tee to green, and it's a well-conditioned golf course. But we're looking at maybe some options to do something different with the greens when we enter 2024. As many people that are on this call will probably attest that the paspalum is a great grass, but when it comes to the greens, sometimes it can not achieve some of the speeds that we like to see. So it's one of the things that we're looking into is changing the grass out on the greens. But again, that's a couple years away. The golf course itself, I think, is a very, very good golf course, certainly for the clientele that we have. Like I said, we take outside play. Golf Now twice we've been rated as the best conditioned golf course in the area for those that are coming in. So again, it's a pleasure being here at Forest Glen and being, let's see, 1999. I don't know if I mentioned that is when it opened. So kind of in a little transition as far as when you get 20, 25 years into a club is when you start kind of transitioning out of the older membership and getting new memberships in. So it's a great place to be. I'm enjoying it very much.
Thanks, Ed, for the intro. And I know that Tim, your GM, took a bit of a gamble taking a former Disney person in, and I hope that you haven't made everyone characters down there. Speaking about Tim, he was at Erin Hills at the time, and he saw our system there. So it's quite fitting that I've got Erin Hills as my backdrop today. They're also long-term partners of ours. And then he said, we could really use something like that at our club. And yeah, fast forward a couple of years, and this, it's a hell of a success story. Speaking from a data point of view. So we're delighted to have you with us today, Ed, and just sharing a little bit about what you do and what's important to you at the club with regards to managing the traffic, and especially when things get busy, which you've had quite a taste of ever since you started. What's it been like? Yeah, obviously Disney is a busy place, but to switch over and then come into a period for golf that was just like nothing we've ever seen before. What's it been like for you and the team down at Forest Glen?
Sure. Well, interesting enough, when I joined in September 2 years ago,
Ed, I've lost your sound. It seems. Maybe it's just me.
Can you hear me now? Are you all good?
Can't hear.
Huh. I don't know what would have happened.
Okay, I think we're good now.
It's okay.
Are we good now?
Yes, might have been me.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's just say it was you.
Yes.
Anyhow, yes, interesting coming back in during the pandemic. Actually, a year ago, this Memorial Day would be the first time that we actually did a shotgun tournament. Of course, during that time, like most facilities, we didn't have any of the social and the gatherings of people due to the pandemic. So I spent my whole first season here without having to do a shotgun, and there's good and bad about that. But this season certainly was a little bit different. We were able to get back to somewhat normal, if you will. And again, if anybody can call this year normal, the influx of people that we have found in Florida, influx of people that have stayed down in Florida because they're working from Florida now, and has just multiplied how many people are trying to get onto the golf course. But yes, the first season was interesting, but it was actually a good introduction for me to kind of get to know some people and to get a feel for what are the important things that they're looking for from their club experience.
No, for sure. Yeah. So we've seen, because obviously we track play, and we've seen such a spike in additional play volume at the clubs that we work with. And maybe that's a good segue to quickly introducing what we do at Tagmarshal. Like Meredith mentioned, we're partners with the South Florida section, also in multiple other sections. So we are a golf course optimization system. So we help clubs and managers manage everything that moves out on the course with a special attention to the player flow and the pace of play. We have tracked more than 30 million rounds of golf, and that obviously counts up daily, especially now in season and in the north. Lots of data collected, and there's about 500 clubs that we work with at this point. There's some of the who's who here in the top row. You can see the yeah, we're not shy of some major hosts, which is exciting for us. And in the middle, there's your resort base. Erin Hills, like I mentioned, was one of our very first customers, but we also work extensively with Pinehurst and Kewa and Pebble Beach and others. And what's great for us is where most of our clubs are nothing like these top facilities, we get to learn from them and what's important to them, and also some of the top managers, and then take a lot of these learnings back to the broader club base that we partner with. Same with the tours and the USGA and the RNA. We're about to work with the RNA on the World Amateur Champs events this year. We work with the European Tour and others, and we everywhere possibly we learn, and then we take that back into our partnership space and also into our system, right? So that's what we're here to do. And we're always about partnership and going far with others. So it's great to have Ed with us, and like I said, his club have been partners with us for a number of years, and that's always what we aim for. Ed, back to you. And with your vast experience and also having been high-end private, semi-private, golf factory at Disney, and also a resort that really had a private club feel to it, what would you say are the factors that are key to the player experience, if you distill it down to the top 3 in your experience?
Sure. I think golf course conditions are always very important, and what I hear, no matter, again, what facility that you're at, I think that's a overriding concern or an issue with people that come out to play that affects their experience. I think the second one is certainly the pace of play, the flow of play, how that is at a golf course. I think combining those two really are important for the golfer's experience. The third one kind of now narrows down a little bit as far as what type of facility you're at. If I'm talking about Forest Glen, certainly the tee time availability would be very important, and I'm sure for many of the people on this call, as far as the this past year, just getting access to the golf course. But again, those are the 3 that first come to mind. The third one, I think you have to narrow it down to what type of facility maybe it is. That would be the third most important. But I feel pretty confident that the course condition and the pace of play are something that most of us would agree on.
Yeah, we've got a poll running here that I'd ask you all to just take a minute to put your rating down. It's just nice to obviously include everyone who's on a little bit. We can't have you all speak, unfortunately, otherwise it'd be chaos. But if you have an opinion here, it'd be great to share it. It's a good point that you're making, that you differentiate between what club we're talking about, right? And we know certainly in the private club space and country club, the experience is always key. Now, what is it made up of? And when it comes to daily fee, that normally gets distilled down to value, right? But what does value mean? Sometimes $150 round of golf can be fantastic value, and sometimes a $30 round of golf can be too much, and it's bad value, because maybe the conditioning wasn't great, or you just didn't get a good experience out there, and often the flow of play is what breaks it, right? I'm going to end the poll. We've got about 25 people's opinions here. There's some coming in. Let's see if I can share it quickly so you can see what we found. So in line with Ed's assertion, course conditioning coming out top, pace of play coming out third, and accessibility, tee times availability second, and accessibility, tee time availability coming in third. No big surprises here. And second to the not surprises, the USGA has done some extensive research on this, and they found virtually the same results here. 82% of golfers are saying course conditioning is key to their enjoyment. And Ed, you mentioned the turf at Forest Glen, and I know how much you and other clubs are investing in course conditioning. And if you have a good greenkeeper who's a wizard, you want to hold on to that person because that's what makes it, right? And at the same time, from a player's point of view, interesting enough, what ranks highly is who's in my group. I don't want to be paired with that strange single that's just arrived. I want to, well, enjoy and know the people ideally who I play with, but very close. And this is only 8% off is pace and flow and time it takes to play. And I do think that we need to differentiate a little bit here between what the flow is and what the time is. And maybe you have some opinions here, knowing that you are a granddad and you've got children with young kids. Time is a factor, right, to golf, and then the flow, what does that actually mean? So what would you say? How do we differentiate?
Sure. Well, I think that you could play a 4-hour round of golf and feel that the pace is not is slow because of just how it's flowing, that you're waiting on every shot. And you could take a 4-hour and 20-minute round and it'll seem like it flows well because everything's spread out and people are moving and it's just the amount of people that are on there. So those two, pace and flow, there's not an absolute in them. I think the flow is very, very important on a golf course, particularly when you're trying to get as many people out there as you can in our situation where we're a bundled community and trying to, not that anybody's not trying to get, obviously public golf courses, resort golf courses are doing the same thing from a revenue standpoint, but it's very important. But, the third thing is the time. And that's something that we're seeing for many years now is, as you mentioned, I think of my son. I was just talking to him last night and he's only played twice in the last 8 months. And this was a guy that was out there quite a bit, but he's got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and a newborn. And he said he walked into a golf shop yesterday and he felt like he was in a different place. He just didn't even feel natural for him because it's been such a long time. And so looking at that is moms and dads only have a certain amount of time maybe that they can kind of borrow that time away, whether it's from family or other obligations, and just like others. And so the time it takes for somebody to play is something that we need to focus on. So those three things are really separate but the same in my book as far as when we talk about pace, flow, and time, but for different reasons.
Sure, very true. And I do think that from a private club perspective, you do want that next generation member, right? And time is a factor for them, and availability is a factor for them. And then the flow always, like nobody wants to be stuck, and that's even more of a key factor in the daily fee space. Okay, let's jump ahead. Also, maybe just a word to all of our listeners. If you have any questions or suggestions, there's a Q&A. You can just post it, and we'll try to answer the best we can, or when we get to it. Feel free to use that. Further to that USGA research, there's some more research, and you might tire of my Erin Hills references, but the lady sitting on stage here at that Tokyo Innovation Symposium the USGA held is Professor Chris Schoonover, who's the Director of Operations at Erin Hills, but she's also a professor on customer experience research at the University of Wisconsin, and she was tasked with her colleagues to do this extensive research just more recently on what are the experience factors in a round of golf, and they come up with 1,000 touch points. There's 1,000 touch points in a round of golf, and you might think they're crazy, but if you think about it, loading your clubs into the trunk is a touch point, going into the pro shop is a touch point, driving through the gate is a touch point, teeing off is a touch point, having a halfway house snack, all of these are touch points, and then they try to rate them based on multiple thousands responses from golfers. Which ones rate high, which ones rate low in terms of experience, which ones add to the experience and make it fantastic, and which ones detract or make it bad and frustrate. And what they found, conditioning floats very high, sorry I'm jumping, but what floats the highest is positive ranger etiquette or positive marshal etiquette. Out of everything anything that you can do to a golfer, this ranks the absolute highest. And on the contrary, the marshal roll, marshal placement, and corrective pace of play actions, that is somebody coming over and grunting at you and saying you're slow, get on with it, that ranks the worst in terms of experience. And the conundrum is that golfers rating other people's speed and that they're not quickly enough and quick enough staying in their way as equally as bad. So out of all the 1,000 touch points, these are the ones that rise to the top if you do it well, and the ones that ruin somebody's experience potentially if we don't do it well. What are your thoughts on this and what you've seen, and maybe also just how does Forest Glen take heed of this sort of information?
Yes, the positive ranger etiquette, I think, is something that we probably do well, but it's a little different than maybe some other clubs currently do, and that's, we actually don't employ a ranger out on the golf course, someone that's rotating on the golf course. Being able to utilize the Tagmarshal, we're able to spot, again, just like others, be able to, whether it's through the GPS or a Tagmarshal type system, we're able to track the pace of play that's out there. And one of the things that we do is we have an inside staff member are the ones that actually have direct contact with our members if there's an issue out there. And why I feel like that's a positive is one, it's usually a familiar face that's in the staff. It's part of the professional staff that's out there. And my hope is they're all professional conversation with the member or the group that's out there. And so I think that helps us. When I saw this screen thinking about a positive ranger, I think that we do a good job with that, again, because we really put the onus on the staff member within the golf shop. One of the things that we do the first thing in the morning is we appoint the person that's going to be the one that really keeps an eye on the golf course from the Tagmarshal standpoint, meaning that they're monitoring the screen. It doesn't mean the rest of us aren't doing it, but it's as we get pulled in the many directions that we get pulled in, and things change on a certain day, whether we have some lessons or we're out dealing with something else, preparing for tournaments. But I always assign one person that if all else fails, you're the one that needs to be the person that's keeping an eye on it. And so it's kind of a best practice that I got from somebody else that say, let's just appoint somebody, a staff member, and make sure that we're keeping an eye on it. From that aspect, I think it's very, very important. And then the flip side of that is we also have a policy in place that if we go out and talk with somebody, they're behind, is we keep an eye on it for obvious reasons. But if they catch up and everything is kind of back in the flow, we make a point to go back out there and to thank them. And I think that's always been a missing thing. And I certainly haven't been good at it throughout my career, is we tell people, oh, you're behind, you need to pick up, you need to do this. And we kind of keep an eye on them. And, but we never actually go out and say, hey, thank you. You picked up after we talked to them. We really appreciate it. More importantly, the 150 people behind you really appreciate it. And again, I think it just kind of shows that the pace of play that is very important to us here at Forest Glen, to the staff, and it's one of our main goals that throughout the day we make sure that we're keeping an eye on and addressing when it's needed to. I might, kind of just add to that one. I talked about the first year I was here, and you kind of feel the club out and see where the important things are. I've never been at a club that has a 5-page pace of play policy that was developed by the board. And it's very detailed, and it's something that all of the membership knows about and adheres to it. So we get a lot of buy-in from the members, again, because of when we're out there, they know that we're just doing what we're being directed to. And so knowing that as they came in and how important it was to the club, and again, we understand how it's important, but the club took the steps to actually outline exactly a pace of play policy and what the steps are. And so that's helpful too. So just as a side note on that.
No, 100%, and thanks Ed for explaining. So we from our side, we don't think that it's so outrageous to not have a marshal. Like we think it's a great idea. And if you do have a marshal, then don't call them a marshal. Call them a on-course assistant or player ambassador or something like that, because the marshal role or the marshal or ranger name already insinuates that it's about marshalling. It's a traffic warden. There's some sort of authority with it, and ultimately, what we are promoting is that, well, you should be looking to add value to the players, and I think that's where your decision to go with the professional staff is absolutely the right one, because you don't need to go and bark at a person to get on with it. Like, you can have a constructive conversation that they actually appreciate, and that's when you get buy-in. But there's one thing that you need if you want to do it that way, and that's obviously information and data. And I think that's probably a good time to talk to the technology that you are deploying at Forest Glen. So the next section is, how is Forest Glen managing field flow effectively, even on the busiest days and busy days you've seen, like we mentioned. So if you'll allow me just a very quick introduction to the system that that we've got running at, like I said, 500 clubs now. So for the kart clubs, we do have what we call a passive tracker, and we do have an 8-inch high definition, really super high accuracy screen as well. So that's something that a lot of the clubs are saying, this is great. So like, that adds backend value to us, because all of these units do send data to the backend, and that's what Ed and the team also use and see. But then there's a player facing value too. So what Ed and the team at Forest Glen have done, and this is Tim, who's the GM, he saw what was one of our earlier version systems at Erin Hills, where we have these walking trackers. And at Erin Hills, and Ed mentioned earlier that sometimes a 4-hour round can feel slow, and a 4-hour 20 round can feel amazing. At Erin Hills, they make a 5-hour round feel amazing, because I kid you not, that's a goal time, but that's because it's a major host, incredibly tough to play, and it's quite a long walk, right? So they're using these tags, and that was the system we had at the time. So Tim found a way with his team to make use of these with all of the private carts, with the cart fleet, and they just basically get clipped on and taken off, and you don't need that many to do it. But what most of our clubs do, they say, well, we've got this fleet for 4 years. We want to make sure that we manage it well, and that's why we want to just install and get the data like this. So the data then gets sent to our servers, and there's a decision engine and algorithms that run and make sense of it, so that the teams have got an easy way to work with it, both on a day-to-day live data, where Ed says we look at the screen, we know exactly what's going on. We're going to talk to that just now, but also from a reporting point of view, where I know, Ed, that's important to you when you talk to your board on a monthly basis, and also when you identify which days do we need to pay more attention to what hasn't worked so well. So let me just jump one forward. So this is the Forest Glen map as far as the system is concerned. We don't have any play out on this weekend. It would look quite busy, but you can already see that's not an easy course to manage line of sight wise, right? Because it's quite spread out, and you've got your Forest Glen for a reason. It's quite foresty around, and you've got residential areas. So if you wanted to manage the club just from a pure line of sight point of view, you wouldn't get very far. But why don't you tell us what the sort of things are that you use this for, and what do you and the team look at, and how does it work for you?
Sure. On the left side of the screen, the snapshot on what you might be able to see on a certain day is, and again, it's fairly simple. Is green will tell you that the group is on pace or ahead of pace. Yellow will show that there's some slowing down, and red is showing that a group is behind. Again, on that example with the tracker 17, the group where it's talking about hole 13 fairway, which is actually on 5, but not hole 13, but that's neither here nor there. That just tells us on that hole that there's actually 6 minutes behind on a pace that has been defined. And what we have done, and again, I don't want to get ahead of myself through Tagmarshal, is we've done studies on how each hole on the average time that it takes, and so that's how that's kind of built in there. So again, I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I just wanted to point, how do you know that they're 6 minutes behind? So So again, on this example, when you look at the unit 17, we see that this group is 6 minutes behind. We can look ahead and see that there's not a group on the tee in front of them. So there's a little bit of gapping. I wish we were in the position that we could do 10-minute tee times or 9-minute tee times or anything, but we're 8-minute tee times, which is basically, you know, a half a hole as an average. So, so it's kind of tightly managed. But so when you're 6 minutes behind, you can see you're holding up quite a few groups. So what we do is watch this. We have a good gauge on areas of the golf course, and as everybody else is probably on this call, you get to know maybe your slower players or your slower groups, your slower times. So it allows you to take just a visual look at it, see that the group is behind, and this is an opportunity to jump out there early in the round, as they're only on 5 there, to go out and see if you can assist them to move forward. And this looks like the slide is like on an iPad. So what we will do from this standpoint is staff member will go out and either grab a pad, iPad, or we actually have it on our cell phones that we can call it up, so that we can say it takes us a little while to get out there just because of the distance it has to travel. And so we can actually have up to minute information when we're talking to them, because even though this says 6 minutes behind, when we left the shop, we might get up to them and it could be 8 minutes. We could get up to them, it could be 3 minutes, but because we have the ability to look at this as we get up to the group, we're able to talk to the group and show them exactly where they stand on the golf course and why we're out there. Another thing I'll kind of point out on the screen here, where it talks about the pace trend. Those green means they've played on pace or a little bit ahead of pace per hole, and the red will show that they've been behind. So again, you can kind of look and see, is it just the last hole that they fell behind? Maybe there was an issue there, or again, looking at this, they've been consistently kind of falling behind on many of the holes. So in this instance, it's probably not one hole or one issue that's caused the slowdown, if you will. So this is a prime person to be able to go out there and talk to them and ask them to move along and catch up on pace.
Thanks for the explanation. You are quite right. This is supposed to be hole number 5, but we sort of pieced this together. It's not an actual system, just to show. But maybe one of the things that's worth mentioning is that you know who the players are in the group. You also know, is it a twosome, threesome, foursome, because you it's assigning straight through the tee sheet. So in your case, you're running Jonas. We're integrated with about 15 different tee sheets. So the major one certainly is a very smooth integration that we're running, and so there's no extra effort needed. And what's helpful here is that obviously now you would know who the people are. Also, especially in private club space, sometimes there's sensitivities that you can then be prepared for. But I think the key is that you have information that you can have a conversation over. And for the guests today, if there's one thing that you want to take away from, because we've learned that the marshal role and corrective pace action is such a negative experience influencer for players. The one thing that we've learned, some of the best clubs do, is they would never say to a player, "You're slow, please pick it up," because if a player hears they're being called slow, it's like you're saying you've got a low IQ, right? They just can't compute it. So rather don't go there. And you mentioned it, we want to catch up. So what a lot of the clubs saying, well, can you help us get back in position? Because you're supposed to be 400 yards ahead or 5 minutes ahead. Let's help us get back in position. And normally that's an easy conversation to have. And especially if you have the information. So where this gets tricky is if you don't have the data, then it's he said, she said, potentially confrontational, and it doesn't add value to the players. And like this, and I know that the team from Oakmont told us that a while ago, if you're not on top of it, and if it may just be 10 minutes, but you can never get this time back. Once this 10 minutes impacting 100 players behind that group, you can never get it back. And everyone's experiences is deteriorating. So rather get on top of it early, and obviously that's where this live view really helps. And also to have, like you said, Ed, somebody who's in charge, putting up the hands. It's on me today. I'm going to keep an eye on the screen, and I get out when it matters. Obviously, with our two-way screen, that information can go straight to the players, and the system will also tell them if they're starting to fall behind, so they can acknowledge, which can save a club the trip out. I'm going to jump ahead just some of the notes that I know that's important to you and the team. You mentioned you don't actually have marshals. Great. Then, yeah, you mentioned sometimes it's not so easy if you have a member with guests, or also I would guess if you take an outside play in, because the players may not know the course. So how do you handle it if a member says, well, my guest just wants to take it easy and he hasn't played it before? Not the easiest conversation.
No, it isn't. And again, I think you just have to be very tactful with it. But the thing I encourage people to say is, we want your guests to have a good time. We want you all to have a good time. But there's also 125 players behind you that we want to. We've set the expectation for them on how long this round's going to take. And going back to your, the screen as far as the flow and the pace and all that too. If you're advertising that your round, or you're impressing upon them that your round is going to be 4 hours and 15 minutes or less, and we're going to keep an eye on it. It's difficult to maybe speak to that individual or to that member, but again, you have another 120, 150 people behind them, which is very important. And backing up a little bit, I kind of forgot to mention earlier that one of the great things with the Tagmarshals that we're able to do is, when I got on board, is the key, I thought, to keeping our pace of play, our flow, was to get off to a good start in the day. And so what we instituted is every time, all the tee times before 8 o'clock, we put a 4-hour pace that they need to be 4 hours or less. Our pace of play policy for the club is 4 hours and 15 minutes. That's an acceptable round. But we've made the change that all tee times before 8 o'clock are 4 hours. And that is a easy change in the system for tracking that makes every tee time that goes out before 8 o'clock, their pace is now 4 hours. And so again, I think everybody will agree, if you get off to a bad start on the day, it's tough catching up. So that's why we've done that. And we've actually enforced and advertised, if you don't feel as though you can play in this pace, then don't get a tee time before 8 o'clock. Don't ask for a tee time. And it kind of fits into with the guest part of it, because I think your guests are always going to be a little bit slower than your members that play out here every day, that kind of know everything. So it's also kind of sets up that expectation, working back to the guest deal, is that before 8 o'clock's probably not a good idea with your guest, someone that hasn't seen the golf course, because just naturally it's going to take maybe a little bit longer. So don't set yourself up for failure. And it's been fairly successful as far as people grasping upon it. Again, it just kind of shows the membership that we're all just trying to do the best we can and enjoy the experience here at Forest Glen under the hand that we're dealt. Again, we have a lot of people trying to get on the golf course, and high demand. So we want to make sure that we set that expectation and hopefully meet it most of the time.
Yeah, thanks. So that's a great point you're raising. Our team calls that dynamic goal time. So it's not one flat goal time. And we've got a lot of clubs that are taking this quite a few steps further. They might play to a 4:15 like you, but they might say, well, the first 5 we want to play really quickly, 3:30, and then we do 3:45, and then we do 4 rounds, and later on as the day progresses, that's when we get to the 4:15, but we might even then go beyond that, 4:30. So they literally have their day spaced out, and then they advertise depending on what experience a player wants, and also what their golf level and fitness level is, and so on, and can they handle, they commit to it. And guess what? Everyone has a better time because they get the experience that they feel up for. And now there's a system that can help them enforce it. And I mean, that works at Kiowa, for instance, and they saving so much time, like you're saying, pulling the day along from the get-go, which at a daily fee a facility or resort means we can create additional capacity, right? Which is obviously interesting from a revenue point of view. Maybe just jumping ahead, another feature that I know that your team uses here or there is that there's a track map, which is a historic map of every single round that got played. So if there's ever any questions, either checking in with the team, what happened with this round, or a player might come in and say, oh, it felt like we played for 7 hours, what's going on? Then you can actually go and check in on that. So how do you make use of this if you do? And is it helpful to the team?
Yeah, I think what you brought up is when we do have an instance when somebody comes in and it took us 5 hours to play out there, or nobody spoke to the group in front of us, that they seem to be holding everything up, and we're able to pull something up like this, pull this up and show that, okay, yes, we were out there on number 12, and as you can see, once we addressed them on 12, 13, 14 they picked up, 15 they picked up. So not just to prove our point that we were out there, but again, to kind of respond that we were on top of it and we were able to move this group along. And again, you're not always successful, but the other side of that is when someone comes in and says, Ed was out here twice today, we played fine, we finished 4 hours and 10 minutes. And so then I can pull this up and say, well, no, it was actually 4 hours and 22 minutes. And this is where you're behind. And this is where the pace was. And again, it's not to show anybody up, but it's to also, just kind of show that we're dealing in I don't think absolute is the right, but we have the data, that it's fact-based. Okay, it's a fact-based analogy of what we've done out there and what they've done out there, and to keep an eye on it. So I don't want us to feel as though, but that we're marshals and that, we're saying we're right and you're wrong. It's nothing to do with that. It's actually, again, I think to kind of show that this is all fact-based on why we were out there and addressed your group. So thankfully, we don't have to utilize this too much. Again, I think our membership was pretty good, but there is times where you might need to do that. And it's nice to be able to have the data to do that.
Yeah, we've got a lot of clubs also in the Northeast, and they may have sort of legacy policies that include pace of play warning letters and things like that, which is a horrible thing to have to do, right? But so they're saying, well, we don't need that anymore because now we've got information that we can just talk to players about, and it's no longer a he said, she said, but I know this person in the club who's going to back me up and so on. So it's information, like you say, it's facts-based, and that's helpful. And I mean, you are tracking data in so many instances in the organization, and here's one that's really key to you. So then why not do it here as well? And I think talking to the data is something that we want to do a bit more now. In terms of, you mentioned running 8-minute intervals, which a lot of managers would say, well, that's ambitious because you're going to be so busy. But here's what this looks like in the Forest Glen Tagmarshal system for a day. Obviously, we picked a good day. There are also days where things don't always work as smoothly, but this one is where it says we've got a 4-hour start to the day, the first few tee times, and then that goes up to 4:15. And every single round, starting from 7:26 right through to 12:17, came in on pace. And that doesn't happen by chance, right? You have to put the effort in, and also your players need to be aware of it. And then another great thing to see is that you've got 97% assignment. So all of your players in the system have got names. So I could go click on this now, and then I could see who's in the group and how did they go. And down here is the distribution of the pace for the day. Everyone on pace, a few people even quicker than that. Your breakdown hole by hole, most of your holes playing through nicely. So this is what a good day at the office looks like. And the great thing is that this is a great day for your team, because high fives, well done. Like, we delivered a great experience, but even more so for your players. And I'm not sure, and that's a question I'd like to ask you. Do the players ever come back and say, today the condition was great and it was so smooth to play through, thank you guys? Or do they take it for granted? It's a bit ungrateful. I'm not sure, like, what's it like? And also, how do you use this information with reporting with your team and with committee and so on?
Sure. No, they do. They'll come in there and say, boy, we played in 4 hours or under 4 hours. I teed off at 9 o'clock and everything was great. And my first response is, well, remember that, because when you play in 2 weeks and it's 4 hours and 15 minutes, I want you to know that that's an average, of pretty good average of the round. But no, they do come in. And again, it's part of the culture, I think, at Forest Glen, that we're not trying to race around the golf course, but we're very up to speed on making sure that we're keeping an eye on it. Another part of this too is I utilize some of this reporting side of it. Every monthly we meet with the golf committee and I report how we did for the month as far as our pace. And again, it's not to show, oh, we're doing great, but it's to they're the ones that get the questions from the members. Oh, it seems like every time I play, it's 4 hours and a half and so forth. So again, I'm able to give them some fact-based data that they can take a look at and actually see how the rounds are. It's a great feature. It's not just like, oh, come on, it hasn't been that bad. I haven't heard anybody tell me it's been that bad. I could just queue it up and say, well, let's take a look at it and see.
Yeah, I think you're making a good point. So if we don't know about it and we measure our results by how many complaints do we get, we're probably not doing as well as we can, right? So it's that continuous improvement you want to drive. And also you want to know, how is our course set up? Has it been successful? Feed that back to the superintendent possibly, because there might be days where, well, he might have created unwittingly a problem for you to manage, right? So the more information you have, you can never know enough about your business, is what a lot of our customers are saying, that they really appreciate that. Here is the round time staggering. So like I mentioned, some of our clubs take this really far and manage it really tightly. And then they create opportunity for additional tee times, because think about it, if you're running your morning at 3:30, 3 hours and 30, you can potentially run a slightly tighter interval because the players are moving so quickly, and boom, you've created one additional tee time at a key time of day, and that helps with accessibility and tee times availability that we mentioned was so critical, or later on in the day. But yeah, that's certainly a successful day. And so what the data does also, you can look at an entire month and see how did each day play, and then dive deeper and deeper, and then look at opportunities for improvement, right down to the player level. Yeah, maybe just to tell the story here a little bit of Forest Glen, where you can see how the traffic has picked up during a period 1,173 groups tracked, mostly foursomes, and then a year later, it's quite a bit more at the same period, but the traffic is improving. So the flow is improving. And that's obviously something that you can engineer with the right sort of attention, and that's great results achieved from a season-on-season point of view. And that's what a lot of our clubs are reporting, is they put attention on it, their team's buying into it, there is buy-in from the players too. Everyone's on the same team, everyone wins, and that is great, and well done to you and the team for achieving that. We are trying to stay on pace and hopefully also have 3 or 4 minutes for Q&As. So what I would like to ask is, how does technology help the Forest Glen team deliver exceptional levels of on-course service over and above the pace? And while Ed is going to talk to us about that, I've got another poll that I want to throw out at our guests. Meredith said now is the season to sort of take stock, how did we do? And then also plan for the new year. What is it that you are looking to do and where you're looking to invest? So yeah, just as if you can pick one, I don't know how many this poll allows you to pick: better course conditioning, improved course design, obviously big projects. You mentioned that you want to regrass, staff training. revamping clubhouse? What are the sort of things that you're looking to do at the club that you believe will have a big impact on your play ahead of the new season? But Ed, going back to you, how does technology help Forest Glen? Are there any other benefits that you feel that you're getting in terms of making the service levels better and experience better?
Yes, I think, again, with the integration with the tee sheet, and so, you know, you have the names and the anticipation, like maybe from the food and beverage team, as far as when they see groups that are coming in, the pace that they're coming in, they can plan for it in our food and beverage areas. I think, again, just being able to anticipate and coming in, they know the Smith group's coming in, they got 3 tee times in a row, they're a group that plays together, so they kind of get the food and beverage area ready with as far as seats, and literally have drinks waiting for them because they know what they drink, and again, because of the membership that it is. And so I think that does, we don't actually use the food and beverage because we have obviously the different system with the units, but it doesn't mean that the food and beverage doesn't benefit from the technology. And again, saying food and beverage, but also it helps us anticipate the outside staff. You know, is now the time that somebody should check the range because our group isn't coming in. We can see them on the 18th fairway. Do we have 5 minutes? Is this a good time for someone to go grab a bite to eat real quick because we've got a group on 17 and we won't see anybody coming in for a while. So those are somewhat simple things, but they're important things, particularly when you're looking at 8-minute tee times and throughout the day and how busy that you are. So, and again, hopefully it tells us that ensures that they're having a good time, having the experience. If I can go back to my Disney days, that's why they call their staff cast members, because Disney's philosophy is you're on stage the entire time that you're out there and you're performing a show for them, if you will. And it's about their experience. And so again, having every little bit, particularly some of the technology that can help you do that, the drinks waiting on the table when Mr. Smith comes in, because that's what he has. It sounds like a simple thing, but again, I think it's actually a part of the experience. And having the team ready for when they come off the golf course, that's another great experience. And again, they know who it is. So all of those things I think are important, and how we utilize the technology here at Forest Glen to deliver an exceptional experience the best that we can.
Thank you, Ed. And I know that your members and their guests appreciate all that effort, and you know, there's a reason why you ranked so highly. Yeah, just quickly share the poll results. So you can never do enough for your course conditioning, and obviously the staff training important, and there's some people who look into technology to manage the field flow better. We know that yeah, staffing not an easy thing these days, right? So if you've got a system that can help you optimize that a little bit and save hours, that's certainly a consideration. Ed, we are at the end of our round almost, just 5 more minutes. Kept us on pace like I promised.
Yes, you did.
So just to a quick shout out if there's any questions that we can try answer. I would also like to, if Joey Walters from our Atlanta office is on now, come say hi. And Ashley Bryant, who is our relationship liaison in Florida. So Joey is going to be at the South Florida PGA Tournament Series at the club at Gateway, which happens in end of June. Is that something that you're going to be at, Ed?
Not planning at this time to be there.
And here's Ash. Ashley, how are you?
Good, thanks, Bodo. How are you?
Look like you're coming straight from the golf course.
I'm ready.
Ash, you wish.
Hi, Ed.
If there are any questions, please do shout. And I know that maybe Meredith or your team, if there's anything that you need to add in terms of how do the credits work and things like that. In the meantime, a quick hint that we have a Golf Genius integration as well, which is great for the two-way when it comes to live scoring and the leaderboard and that. So that's yeah, our clubs are loving that one. That's really good. And then I've got Joey, I think may not be able to come on now, but he heads up our Atlanta office. Lovely guy that I hope yeah, many of you meet at that next section event. And yeah, do give Ashley a shot if you have any questions. And Ed, we don't want everyone to contact you, but I'm sure if somebody did, you'd know where to guide them.
More than happy to.
We're struggling with staff shortages. Can the system help us to operate with fewer staff? Yes. Well, we always say that well, it takes an hour to learn, and then it saves you 3 hours a week. So it's not a bad investment. And then obviously you can get more done, right? And that's maybe a good point to raise. A lot of the clubs tie in their superintendents, so they track their carts as well, so they can see if there's a viable gap in the field. They can go out and get more done, and they can also get more efficiencies out of that. Okay, here's a question. How do you handle clubs that walk and ride with club-owned and private carts? So at your club, you simply go and tag them, right? At other clubs, they might say, well, all the private carts will also get a unit installed. So everyone's on the same page, and make that mandatory. We have a large number of private carts, assuming they are required to have one of the devices installed in their carts. Which devices would you suggest? Yeah, so this is a question that Ashley gets asked all the time. Do you want to field that one?
Sure thing. We've spoken with a lot of partners and potential partners around this, and I think it depends entirely on your setup and how open your membership are to having a device installed. Having that included in a trail fee or as part of an annual fee is certainly a solution. And having, I think, full oversight of all the carts on the property is great. And there are no risks to privacy either. So you won't be tracked when you're not on the course. So that also doesn't need to be a concern. And yeah, I think it's certainly achievable, whether you're using an installed device, a screen, or a mobile device. It's achievable.
Yeah, I think most of our clubs would initially go with the installed passive device on private cards, but there's a number of ways. So what we normally do is a bit of an analysis of your setup, and then just advise you what's best and what's most cost efficient as well. Okay, I do think that we are on bang on track and on time. And thank you everyone for your time and for your attention. South Florida PGA team, do we get you back on, or you're too busy? You've already left. Oh, there's Jackie. Okay.
I'm still here, sorry. Thank you all. Thank you both for presenting. And as far as MSR credits go, we'll post those today. However, with national and the influx of MSRs coming in before the deadline, they've been taking about a week for those to show on your account. So just FYI on that. But thank you to Tagmarshal. Thank you, Ed, so much. And we look forward to seeing you out at Tournament Series #1.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Ash. Thank you, Ed. It's been fantastic to chat to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to having another pastrami sandwich soon at Forest Glen. I still remember that one.
There you go.
Wonderful. Yes, regards to your chef, please. Okay, thanks everyone for your time. Really appreciate it, and thanks to the South Florida PGA section for making this possible for us. Okay.